Now, Vince, this is where we have a big shift now. So so let's just dive into this. Okay. So
Okay.
our fourth guy is definitely different. Now, I did have this player on my original breakout list because at the time Houston Griffith wasn't planning on coming back. And so, but now your fourth guy is not my fourth guy because of Houston Griffith has basically replaced him on my list. So I don't think you're insane for this one as you dive into it.
I'm insane for a lot of other reasons.
I can't have him quite in my top four because of the circumstances are just different now than they were then. But yeah. So just dive into it. Your fourth guy is.
Yeah. So let me preface this selection real quick because I've loved this guy for a couple of years now, and I really loved it when they moved him from offense to defense, just because I think his skill set really puts him head and shoulders above some other guys. His physical attributes, if you will.
Tell him who you're talking about. The lead-in is killing me.
I love it. It's like This Is Your Life. But anyway, I'm talking about Cam Hart, and the reason being he's 6'2.5", 207 pounds, at least listed on the roster last year. That automatically gives him a heck of an advantage because he's already athletic as all get out, and then you add that height and that length that he's got, and he's starting off like a couple of steps ahead of everybody else at the defensive back position. And I also want to say that he falls into the category for me of somebody who is like, I'm putting that small bet on to make the big money, right? He has the opportunity to really break out, but is he going to get the opportunity? Is he going to be a guy that sees a lot of playing time? I'm betting that he is, but Vegas isn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's where this is for me.
Yeah.
I love his attributes. I love his compete level. I think he's going to be a stud when he finally gets his opportunity. And there's some open opportunities this year. Obviously, with Nick McLeod leaving and graduating, I think there's a huge opportunity for him. And look, the other side isn't exactly locked down because you had a true freshman and you had a kid who lost his confidence. So I think that the corner position on both sides is wide open this year. And so I just think Cam Hart, if he gets an opportunity, I think he's going to really turn some heads because people, I think, have forgotten about him since he went from offense to defense. And I think he's just poised to make a big leap.
I had him on my list for similar reasons. I think that he will get an opportunity. From the sources I've talked to, they very much like his talent. He just has to, number one, stay healthy. He hasn't always been healthy. And number two, the lights got to go on for him as a corner. This is really the second full year of him playing corner. He split his freshman year in 2019. He split between receiver. He started the year at receiver, eventually moved to corner late in the year. So this is just his second full year. And he didn't have spring ball last year. And spring was going to be huge for him because it was going to be his first chance to really get that individual attention at the position that you really can't give in fall camp. In fall camp, you got about a week to do some of that. And then after that, it's kind of, we're getting ready for the year. Spring ball is all about technique, fundamentals, basics, 101, install, that kind of stuff. And so him missing that was big. So I think that stunted his growth a little bit. Well, that's going to should be different now. We should have spring ball now. There's no reason not to have spring ball this year. So I think he's a guy that has a chance, Vince, to see a big jump in his play. And they are going to give him a chance to do it. Now, are they going to give him a super, super, super long leash? No, because there's other players there. He's going to have to show it. And you've got an incoming freshman class that's really good. And we talked about that previously on a breakdown at Irish Breakdown in a podcast with Brian Smith. This is a really good freshman class. So, you know, the leash is going to be somewhat long, but not incredibly long. Otherwise, they're going to have to find somebody else to play. And I think Clarence Lewis is a guy that could also play in the boundary. He might even be more ideally suited for the boundary if somebody else steps up at the field position. So there's going to be competition there, but I think Cam Hart is a very unique player in that you talk about that size and that athleticism, things you can't teach. He's just still learning to play the position. And if the light goes on for him and he has that kind of year two jump that I think he's certainly capable of having.
Yeah.
He could be a big-time player for Notre Dame. But let me run another theory by you, Vince.
Okay.
Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman has shown at Cincinnati that fifth DB, you know, so we talked about Notre Dame ran a 4.25 under Mike Elko and Clark Lee. The reality, however, is that their 4-2-5 was essentially run out of 4-3 personnel. Notre Dame basically went with 3 linebackers. Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah was a linebacker. Drew Tranquil was a linebacker. So it was a 4-2-5 defense with 4-3 personnel. Marcus Freeman, however, prefers to have a 5th true defensive back on the field if possible. Now, at Cincinnati, he can still have 3 linebackers because they only had 3 defensive linemen. If they go to a 4-2-5 now, I think that there's going to be times where it's a 3rd linebacker, but I think we're going to see a lot of 5 true 5 DBs. They prefer a safety body at that position. Cam Hart is unique in that he has corner cover skills, but a safety body.
Yeah.
If he's not your every down corner, or if there's a 3rd corner that let's just say hypothetically that the light goes on for Tariq Bracy and he gets his confidence back and he's ready to rock and roll at field. I think you and I agree that that would be key for the defense because he's still their best cover player. When he's confident, Tariq Bracy is by far their best man cover guy, and this is a defense where they want to play a lot of man. So let's say he steps up and he's back to being what he should be. And you feel good enough to move, you've got some other options there. You've got Ramon Henderson. You've got the incoming freshman class that can play the field position. You really like Clarence Lewis in the boundary where he can compete with, some of the freshmen as well. And then you say, we're going to try Cam Hart in the slot as that 5th DB. I could see that being an option too, Vince, because he's got that body type where he's got that size where he can bring some of the safety downhill tackling to the table, but then he can also cover. He can cover slots, so now you have a safety / corner that can run with a tight end, that can cover backs out of the backfield, that can come up and take blocks, and he can cover slot guys, because those are similar to what he's going to have to be covering outside. So that would be an interesting scenario. And I'm really curious to find out when talking to sources as we go through spring, if Cam Hart's get any kind of look in the slot, because if they want to find a 3rd safety, I don't know if the 3rd safety at Notre Dame right now would fit that bill, and that's DJ Brown. I don't think DJ Brown fits that. So that's not where you're going to get your DJ needs to be on the back end as a rotation guy.
Yep.
Not in the slot. And maybe it's KJ Wallace, maybe it's Litchfield Ajavon, but to me, I really like the option of Cam Hart. Now, the key to that, though, Vince, is you can't move him if other corners don't step up. So him being able to play there is dependent upon other guys emerging at corner as well. But either way, those are 2 possible. And that's why he was on my initial list is he's not either it works a corner or he's nothing. He could maybe not be as great at corner, but then you move him inside to that slot position, and now you have a safety over top of him to kind of protect him at times. But now that's a position where he could really thrive because now you could blitz him off the edge. That's a long rangey dude coming off the edge. He can take on blocks. So what do you think about the possibility, Vince, of him maybe being that sort of that nickel guy in this defense?
I think that might be ideal, to be honest with you. And you kind of broke it down from a size standpoint and from a cover standpoint. He can match up with just about anybody. Mm-hmm. He can match up with the short little, slot type guy, your prototypical slot guy, but he can also match up against the big tight ends who they put in slot and split them out as well. And when you have a guy like that who can play against both different types of slots, I think that is where now you have an advantage on the defensive side. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned from a blitzing standpoint, we know that Marcus Freeman likes to bring blitzes from all over the place. We've seen corner blitzes, we've seen nickel blitzes, we've seen linebacker blitzes. We've seen them from all over the field, and that just gives you another added opportunity to bring pressure from another level. And when he's coming, his length and his size automatically shut down passing lanes.
Disruptive.
Right? Yeah, man. Just getting his hands in the air, left, right, up and around. He takes up a lot of space.
It's easier for a 6'3" corner or quarterback to throw over top of a 5'11" slot guy.
That's exactly right. He's 6'2.5" at this point. And we haven't seen any new measurables yet.
And he's a long 6'2.5" too.
That's correct.
Very long arms.
And he just when we've seen him play, he's just smooth. He's athletic. He's just a kid who I'm excited about, frankly. And whether he's in the slot or whether he ends up getting one of those starting spots on the outside, I think that he is going to be an asset to this defense. And again, I'm putting down small money to make the big money with Cam Hart, and I think it's good money. I really do.
I think too, Vince, to your point, you keep talking about his length and his athleticism. I think that alone makes you as a defensive coach say, we got to try to find a place for this kid. He's too long. He's too athletic to not fit somewhere, and that's going to be interesting to see how that, and he was a guy that I even thought about if Houston Griffith didn't come back, maybe moving to safety, putting him beside Kyle Hamilton. So, and that's something I wrote about at the time as well. So he's a very intriguing player. And I think he's got that kind of body that as a coach, you got to say, we got to find a place to play him. We have to exhaust all options with him. And if he's just not good enough to play at any of those spots, then he's just not good enough to play. Or if somebody's better, then somebody's better. But you have to try and find a place for him. He's just got too many traits. To me, he's the Isaiah Foskey of the secondary. He's got too many natural God-given abilities that you love that you're not going to give him a chance to play. And if the light goes on, he could be a difference maker for Notre Dame somewhere.
Absolutely agree with that.